Hey, Mr. Luft, how about we go to item number 8?
As soon as,
All right. For those watching on TV, there is a great celebration.
I think we made some citizens happy this time.
Okay, item 8, briefing and discussion by Peter Ellis on the future of retail and mixed-use development. Mr. Ellis, thank you very much for joining us. And Mark, would you do us the honor of introducing Mr. Ellis and give us a little background?
and the word you said, honor, that's exactly what this is about. It is an honor to work with Mr. Ellis. Mr. Ellis is the developer that did Cibolo Bend across the street from the Walmart development. And with his hard work and his development team, as well as Kelsey and I working with him, it's been successful. And we're very, very grateful. So one of the purposes of this is to embarrass him and say thank you publicly. I've asked him, as you all have done in the previous, you're looking at infrastructure and things like that. Well, part of it's human infrastructure and understanding the economy. And some of y'all are still involved in business and so forth, and you understand what it is to do cost of business and market shares and so forth. And we thought, talk to Mr. Ellis, that he would be a big help to y'all to understand what we're doing, what the challenges of staff and you have in front of you. And since some of the council members are here, I think it'd be very informative for me to turn over to Mr. Ellis and let him just informally talk to you right now.
Thank you, Mark. And Mr. Ellis, the mic is yours, and we thank you for your work here in Cibolo, and we thank you for sharing your insights with us.
Great. Well, I appreciate it. This is nowhere near as fun as what just happened. And I don't have a canned speech or anything. I just figured, Mark said you guys had some ideas on retail and give you a little bit of our experience and just see where it goes. First of all, I'd like to thank Mark, Kelsey, Rudy Klein. I think I can't overestimate from a developer standpoint how important it is when you walk into a community that they welcome development, because there are plenty of communities out there that will meet you with the pitchforks and the torches, and they don't want anybody in their community. And you guys have been very easy to work with. Mark opened a lot of doors for us, was always go-to, easy to get to. And Rudy, Tim Foose, you know, you guys are blowing and going. You're growing, and you've got issues with that, and everybody recognized that, but it was always a team effort to push something, you know, when you hit a hurdle, to just get it over the hurdle and get things done. So we're very excited, very, very happy and proud of the shopping center here. It's done great for us. You have a lot of retail here now. 3 years ago, you really didn't have much at all. And then just chatting with Mark, he called me and said, you know, there were questions about where's the next phase, what else do we do? And I wish I had an easy answer, but there just isn't one. I think a lot of communities tend to think retail leads the show. That's the tail wagging the dog, and it's really not the case. Retail is a follower. They're not leaders. The dog, when you get to a certain point that I think you all are probably at now, to the retailers, certainly the bigger ones. I'm not talking mom and pop and small franchises, but the bigger retailers, a Home Depot, a Lowe's, those type of guys, it's daytime employment. So, you know, they all have sophisticated software, demographic metrics that are far beyond what you normally would see. And they typically would know more about you than you do about yourself. And if they need to be here, they'll be here. And if they don't need to be here, there's nothing you're going to do that's going to bring them here. You could I've talked to Mark about this, you could dedicate some city property, you could go build a brand new Home Depot and give them the keys. But if that doesn't fit their return model, they're not coming. There's still a cost to locate here, and, you know, free everything doesn't necessarily move the needle for them. So, you know, and as I talk to we use real estate brokers, CBRE and Riata Real Estate in San Antonio, and those guys cover pretty much the retail market. And in talking with them, because we've looked at other deals out here to do, the challenge now is who else is left that's not here? Who's going to come of any size that makes another project make sense? You've got out here on 35, 400,000 square feet of retail that's about to open up, and that's going to suck an awful lot over to the interstate. There's also a basket of retailers that have to be on that kind of heavy traffic, heavy visibility. There would never be a player for at least in the near term, for somewhere like Cibolo. So as we were chatting with Mark, and he was talking about going to ICSC and retail trade show out in Las Vegas, and we thought, not to speak for you all, but if I was in your shoes, if I was an EDC group, I feel like retail for the time being, and that doesn't include what HEB is going to bring to the table, I feel like you're pretty stable here. As we put out feelers, we're not getting any feedback of people knocking down the door to come over here. Not because they don't like it, not because you haven't done a great job. You've got the houses, you get great schools, you've got good retail now. I think the next piece that's kind of missing is the daytime employment, because my guess is, and I don't know this, but my guess is in the morning, most of the neighborhoods around here empty out and they go to New Braunfels, San Antonio, wherever, and the big guys look for that daytime employment. So, just talking off the top of our head with Mark, we were suggesting go to manufacturers. Instead of an ICSC, that's a retail deal that you, again, can't, you can put up a nice booth and try to cheerlead for Cibolo, but they're already ahead of you. And if they don't need to be here, they're not going to be here. So I would think, resources spent on chasing daytime employment, manufacturers association conventions, tech startups. You read all the time up and down from Austin. Austin just is an incubator for groups of typically young people that break away from their employment, and they have 4 or 5 of them, they go start a business. Well, if they're in Austin, their cost of living's through the roof. Their office rent is completely through the roof, and and they give up a paycheck to try to make whatever their dream is come true. Very daunting. And I look at Cibolo. I love it out here, by the way. If I could swap my partners can't hear this, but I'd swap the shopping center for Old Main Ice House, and I'd live out here and listen to country western every day. I love coming out here. But so I think it's a great story, and maybe not necessarily for the 23-year-olds, but for the young couples, kids, great schools, great environment to raise a family. I think I wouldn't overlook high tech. It's right up the road. It's a tremendous market in Austin, and it's continuing to pump out startups. I don't know what resources you have or what you could kind of target for that, but I would sure try to get out in front of that. And some of these folks that are going out and starting a high-tech firm can come here. Their cost of living's low. The rent's low. Round Rock did an incubator for high-tech, and I don't know if they give free rent for some period of time, but I'm sure it's a subsidized low rent. But if one of those hits, those companies take off and you get tremendous employment almost overnight. And all of that drives bringing in the retail as opposed to not having it and having them realize most of the town leaves during the day. So my 2 cents.
Well, that's great. You said you wanted a dialogue, so let's have a dialogue. So manufacturers, daytime employment, they need power, they need water, sewer, they need natural gas, they need things.
Right.
What else? Transportation.
Well, you see that coming in. You're improving the roadway. You're exactly right. The infrastructure is probably behind the curve here. I know it was always, you've had so much growth. I don't know where you are on your maxing out your water, your sewer, and your power. But that's certainly a concern. I mean, that's where, and that's what I'd focus on is a really rapidly growing community is if the infrastructure's here, that's a huge check. If it's not, it's very easy to go on down the road to another community that has that in place because they're all around you. And it may be 5, 10, 20 minutes, in the scheme of things in Texas, that's not a big distance. I firmly believe 21st century is the century of Texas. And there are, I just think, a tremendous number of companies in the Midwest, Northeast, West Coast that are constantly looking to relocate. I just think you guys have a lot to sell here. And I would try to concentrate on building up that infrastructure. Everybody's always behind on roads. It's not just you all. Houston's been putting in roads for my lifetime. and before that. So, I mean, it's always catch up. But the roads and the infrastructure is huge. Fiber optics, to the degree you can bring that in, huge. You know, and of course, that's more to the high tech. You know, I don't know about the ball bearings and the nuts and bolts, old school manufacturing, but I assume they'd need less of that. But I just think for the near term, putting some resources into that, see who could locate here to bring employment to Cibolo would be time well spent.
I remember some early conversations about Cibolo Crossing, and if I get into anything that I shouldn't, just let me know. But there was conversations about restaurants.
Right.
And it currently really, to my best recollection, I mean, the pizza is great, Marco's is great, but that's really the only restaurant per se in there, correct?
Other than the fast food, on the pads, Taco Bell.
Yeah,
the,
other
Panda
than on the
Express.
pads.
Right.
Do you have natural gas?
Yeah, I believe we do.
Do you?
Yeah.
I think a CPS up there. Isn't it CPS, Mark?
No, it's
Yeah.
CVC.
Centerpoint.
Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you do have gas. I was wondering, because I remembered some conversation about restaurants, and I'm just wondering if there was something that caused them not to come into the.
Not that we ever
other than
heard. We had
pads.
one restaurant, it's probably the one you're thinking about, that was talking about coming in the larger building in the back. And I don't know what on their end, I don't remember. That was like 3 years ago. I think there were some delay issues on their part. Frankly, from our side, it was not exciting. We'd love to have a restaurant out front. We were trying to get Zaxby's to come over. That's got a lot, you know, the parking lot's full, drives a lot of traffic. But the restaurant group we were talking to was local, first time out of the box for them. It was a big space, and those type of restaurants frequently don't make it. And so there's a lot of expense on our end to be able to retrofit a building to handle that, and then they blow out in a year. That's tough space to release. It's costly to go back into a restaurant and put it back into a retail box shape. So if it was a national firm, you know, a Cheddar, somebody like that you knew was going to stick around, great. But you know, it didn't check all the boxes for us. But that was never. We never killed the deal. They moved on. I think is my recollection, and wanted to be out on 78. But in other than that, we didn't have a large local sit-down restaurant ever come to the table.
Peter, as you can imagine, we do get a lot of requests for particular retail. You know, I want a restaurant or a particular retail shop, and Mark does a good job of trying to keep us focused on getting jobs, daytime jobs in here. You mentioned infrastructure is a key thing, and we agree. Are there other 2 or 3 things that you would think would be attractive for us to draw those kind of jobs into Cibolo? We talked infrastructure. Are there other things they're looking for in a manufacturing area that we could concentrate on as well as infrastructure?
You know, I think probably the best answer to that is, literally, I'd go to one of those conventions and they'll tell you. That's a little out of our wheelhouse. We don't deal with manufacturing. So it's just, you know, my knowledge on that would just be the cursory infrastructure deals. Restaurants, you know, that's a broad spectrum. A lot of the restaurant players want daytime traffic also. You know, there's some they'll take the nighttime, but typically what you'd see in a market like this that's growing, I hate to say new, you've been around for a long time, but new subdivisions blowing up everywhere, it's the fast food guys until it gets a little more mature. And again, that's just, I mean, you're on the track. I mean, you can see it here. Just the change in 3 or 4 years has been amazing. Right down here on Main Street, it was 4 years ago at night, you'd come down here, there was nothing here. I mean, you know, the 2 restaurants were nice, but there's no traffic. And it reminds me now of a small Green. You know, back in the day, Green was dirt parking lots, and, you know, people showed up to the dance hall. And it's just mushroomed. And this looks nothing like it did 3 or 4 years ago.
We just don't have
parking
Willie
lots
Nelson,
in.
though.
What's that?
Just don't have Willie Nelson coming in.
Yeah, I know, that's too bad. But you got a lot of up-and-comers.
I understand. No, I do have a question on the tech side of the thing. off of 10, we should have a good good communications down there. We also have good power down there. San Antonio is essentially the internet connection down in the southwest part of San Antonio. How do we pull some of that this way?
Well, that's a good question.
I mean, we've got the room for it, we've got the communications for it, we've got the power for it, and we've got the land for it.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure what the answer is to that, other than to make that known to the parties that you, I'd reach out to everybody you could in that arena.
Right now, all they're doing is clustering on the southwest for
Right.
obvious reasons, but.
Right. I'm not sure. That's out of my.
Thanks.
To know what does it take to entice a restaurant to come to Cibolo, like a Chattanooga? You said you didn't negate, or you didn't tell the other restaurateurs that they couldn't come, or that wasn't a good spot for them. But what would entice chain restaurants to come to Cibolo?
Population. It's population, daytime traffic, spending dollars. And again, I don't think you can't bring them here. I mean, everybody knows Texas is where you want to be. All the communities, big state with a lot of communities, and they're all growing, and they're all chasing the same folks. And all those guys know, they all generally operate the same way. They've got an army of real estate reps, and they've got real estate committee hearings, and everybody's tasked with, 5 sites, 10 sites this year. That's what you've got to go get in the Houston area or the San Antonio, Austin area. And so you're competing against every other site in this area as to what's going to be a home run. And these guys are all, if they miss, oftentimes lose their job. So they are very risk averse, and they want the slam dunk, can't lose deal. And they know where those pockets are. I mean, they really have pretty sophisticated metrics on site selection. And again, if it doesn't work for them here for whatever reason, there's not enough people yet, or there's household income in where they want it, you could give them a free restaurant, and they're not going to go, because it's still going to cost them money to operate the restaurant. Now, that doesn't go towards local people that may want to step out, and their lifelong dream was to open a restaurant. And those folks, and if they're local and they're comfortable, nothing would stop them from doing that. But that's a risky venture.
So tagging, if I could tag on that question, where you said businesses won't come even if it's free. So there's obviously tools in the tax code, Chapter 312, 313s. There's the local government codes with the 380s and 381s, and the 505s, the different incentives and all of that. So if I'm hearing you correctly, a lot of what you're saying sounds like, if you have the right daytime workforce, population, drive-by, and population, that's more important than probably incentives.
In my opinion, yes. Yeah, most people don't understand what the incentives are. It's a lot of it's bureaucratic. A lot of it is it's hard to you never see a check. And there's a lot of paperwork, and oftentimes it's just again, you've got a list of potential sites, and we're moving forward on these 5, and we don't have time to slow down. We're not going to go through the hoops. We're not going to, we know it's going to work, and what we get is an incentive, really, in the big picture, just doesn't move the needle a lot. At least that's been our experience. I mean, we've done a lot of deals down in infill deals in San Antonio, where they have the ICRIP and the IDZ and et cetera and et cetera. And it just, at the end of the day, it doesn't make any difference to us. It's not much money. we never did any of our deals based on whatever it is we might get from the city in those instances. It's tenant-driven, customer-driven. If they want to be there, we make it happen, so.
I think to tie into Ms. Walker's question, I think we talked about it probably maybe a year ago, maybe more. The EDC talked about it. I think it was Mr. Peterson who talked about it, that these restaurants that want to come in, they don't want to serve one plate a day. When everybody comes back to Cibolo after their workday, when they go to New Braunfels, San Antonio, and whatever, they want to be able to sell a lunch plate and a dinner plate also. So, but if you don't have any workforce here in the city of Cibolo, then you're not selling those lunch plates, and they're not going to survive. They're not going to make a profit off of just a dinner plate. So
That's exactly right. A lot of
I think what you're saying is good, and that we need to bring in manufacturing like that has lots of employees. They'll be here in the middle of the day. We venture out and patron those restaurants.
Right.
So, yeah.
A lot of them, if they don't have lunch traffic, they're, that's just next, and off you go. But, and that doesn't happen overnight on all this, of course. But, you sit here today and you look at this and think, wow, this just happened. And it didn't. It's been going on for years. And you guys, again, I go back to, you've got the housing here. You've got great schools here. You've got retail, you got shops, you've got more coming, you've got the road improvement to the interstate. It's a great place. You've got a great story. Now, you and 100 other Texas communities or more all have that similar deal, but I would not be. I think spending the time and resources, certainly for Mark and his staff, in the retail world today. Not 5 years ago. 5 years ago, go to ICSC and knock yourself out. But today, I don't think in ICSC, everybody knows what that is, I assume, but, okay. I think it'd be time better spent going after now, thinking we've got these pieces in place, we've done a good job, you've got a city that you come here and you're welcomed. I mean, we never felt, and trust me, I've been to a lot of towns where you walk in and we're never going to get anything done, and you just leave. You go going down the interstate. But we never felt anything but a red carpet here. And you always have issues, and you always have problems, and you guys ought to pat yourself on the back that your team here always was accessible and jumped through hoops to make things happen. And that's how you get things done. Otherwise, you get reputation of other communities, one's close by, and you don't want to go, even if your tenants say, we want to go there, you really don't want to go there. Let's go take a look over here in Bernie, and that's just real life. But, I would just, my opinion would be, spend some time and effort on trying to cultivate whatever those daytime employers, whoever they may be. And there's a wealth in that world, not that I'm well acquainted with it, but I know in that world, just like in the retail or the industrial, in that there's a wealth of data and organizations that address those groups that would be who you're mining for. And I think that's your next big step.
And so we talked about daytime employment. There's also a piece of pass by, right? So that's why the interstates fill up so quickly with development, because there's a lot of people driving by and stopping. We've had an ongoing conversation in this community about an ability to connect I-35 to I-10. And so that would obviously bring, traffic through there. What would you expect if there was a thoroughfare like that? Would that be a place for retail? Would that be attractive to manufacturing even because of the transportation?
Yes. How much? I don't know. But depending on where it is and how it connects, not sure. But that would be, if you had a major thoroughfare doing that, you would get interest immediately on some portions of that. I don't know without looking at where that might be, where that might be. But yeah, you would always do that. Wherever you have a high traffic generator, you're going to have people looking, which is a first step. And then the roads, that's a huge piece, is just, you know, a lot of people don't, you know, they just, two-lane road's fine, you know, it's been here for my whole life, or, you know, you've got to dig up the streets, it's a mess. But I tell you, if you can't stop people coming either. This is a great place to be. They're going to come. Your schools are great. People are attracted to the schools. And, you know, I was at school in Austin in the 70s, and there was a big push to do no freeway infrastructure because everyone was afraid of becoming Houston. If we do that, we're going to be Houston. So they did nothing. And now they're worse than Houston. So if you can plan and kind of get out in front of it and get, and I know it's expensive, but, you know, you get roadways put in that connect everybody to points where they're going to be going, and it moves better. It's better for everybody. At the end of the day, it's just going to be better for everybody. It's going to be a better community to be in. Otherwise, they still come and you bottleneck, and, you know, just the improvement down here at what is that? Yeah, where in the mornings and that traffic would back up going to the schools, and you're like, you can't tell them they can't come use the road, so you better make some improvements.
And so FM 78 is really the only street that crosses all the way through Cibolo, you know, from one border to another border, you know, continuous. There's a lot of development going on out to the east of us with Marion, you know, starting to get some more residential development, and then traffic going to even to Seguin and north of Seguin, you know, 46 between New Braunfels and Seguin.
Right.
Have you all taken a look at, I mean, we're seeing some construction. We've got another strip mall, it looks like, underway. We've got housing development, it looks like, underway. We've got our sports fields. What's your take on like a 78?
Well, first of all, I'm not real well versed on 78, and I just, you know, personal opinion, I don't like it as much as 35. And coming in Cibolo from 35, I like coming through these neighborhoods because there are, I just think, impressively well-kept neighborhoods. It's rare to go through that number of homes and you never see a yard overgrown, you know, an old car out. So, I mean, it's just well kept up. Every single subdivision is just nice. And it's just, to me, it's nicer than 78. But, and then too, for us, again, we're driven by our tenants. And so when we sit down with our brokers and we think, okay, the 78's growing, and as more subdivisions come in, we continually look at that, but right now we just sit around the table and it's like, okay, so who is not in Cibolo that wants to be in Cibolo that we can go create something with? But again, we don't, you know, we're not looking for a one or two tenant deal. We want to do a shopping center, and so we've got to have a basket of them. And so we might have one or two that would say, yeah, we'd like to come out there, but we don't have 15. And that's what we look for, is more of a critical mass in numbers.
With the crossing up there, and I'm not going to try to pry into the confidential stuff on that, is there any common theme about retail that we've recruited that have turned us down? Are you seeing any common theme where we wanted to go after a particular retail outfit or restaurant, and they said, no, I won't come there, here's why?
No.
Okay.
It's, again, you know, where the rubber meets the road, it's all of these guys have their real estate reps, and all those real estate reps are salaried guys, and they've all got an X number of locations they've got to open up, and then it's almost like the old, you know, fraternity movie where they flash the picture on the wall and you throw bottles at it. They go through big auditoriums and they flash up their packages, and these are the sites. And this guy's got to get up here and argue for his 12 sites. And if he misses on one of them, that's just not good. And so they are very hypersensitive to how many bullets they've got. And they're just not gonna, they're just very, very risk averse. So if they're not here, it's not, I don't look at it as a negative for the city. It's more, you're not quite there yet. You're not mature enough, and you can't manufacture that. You can't, you know, wave a wand and suddenly, hey, we've got 10,000 people here during the day. It just takes some time, but man, you're growing fast.
I know.
You're growing fast. Right? It's exciting to come out and you feel it. You come out and you just feel it. So I'd stay ahead of the infrastructure as much as I could. Roads, water, sewer are huge. Water and sewer is huge. All communities we go into seem to be, burdened with upgrading their water and sewer. There's never enough. And so I don't know where y'all are on that, but I'd certainly be trying to stay out in front of that. Road improvements where you can. And then for an EDC team like Mark and Kelsey, I think I'd start focusing on employers. Because again, the retailers will come. Whether we bring them, y'all try to bring them in, they'll come. And the thing that's going to excite them more than anything is an employment base that's growing.
Jumping slightly, Bear County is in non-attainment from the green side of the world. Guadalupe County is just outside of that area. Is that going to cause a shift from San Antonio this way, or? EPA.
I don't.
I'm just asking. Yeah, I'm curious.
That never comes up in any discussions we ever have. I don't see that being a. Yeah.
Other questions for Mr. Ellis? You obviously did a fantastic job of answering all our questions, and we've grilled you for a good 25 minutes or so. But we can't thank you enough for taking your time on a voluntary basis to come out to a community, that really can benefit from your great experience and knowledge. And we thank you for taking that time and sharing your insights with us.
Well, I appreciate it, and feelings mutual. We've just enjoyed this. I wish we had. I'd love to do another center like this one out here. Trust me. And if and when we can do that, we'll be back out here doing it.
We'd like you to do one too.
Well, thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.